just the one who'll be talking about finances this morning, finances for your business, that is, this morning. And I have with me this morning in the studio a research and investment analyst with over 14 years of professional experience covering banking, finance, energy, economics, and asset management. Joining me this morning is Olawumi Olatunji. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on the show. Thank you for having me. All right, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Okay, so 14 years, you know, working with finance and all of that. What's the first mistake, or what's the one mistake that you think entrepreneurs make when it comes to finances?
Okay, so when it comes to finances, I would think that entrepreneurs will make the biggest mistake that has to do with not being properly prepared. So just like any soldier, military person, or a group of forces that want to go for a war, you need to be prepared. So the whole process from the point when you start your business to the point where you want to get the financing you need, there's a series of stages that you need to go through. There are things you need to put in place, like putting the right structures, and I can go on and on about structure, governance, but we'll probably come to that later. Yeah. But it's just basically getting the right kind of preparation, having the right kind of information that will help you. So I think that would
All right. Speaking of having the right kind of information, our conversation today is about access to capital for entrepreneurs. Okay. And so we decided to find out the kind of information that is out there and what people think about how to get capital for their businesses, and people sent in a lot of responses. I'd like to share those responses with you so that if there's anything that needs to be corrected, maybe a wrong belief system or a wrong idea about a certain thing, we might quickly correct it so that we help all the people that sent in these responses. And then our question was very simple. Now, we asked, as an entrepreneur, what capital did you use to start your business, and how have you been funding it so far? Okay. Now, our first comment is from Toby in Ogun State. Toby says, graphics business doesn't really need much capital, in my opinion. At the time, I just needed a good system, and the laptop I got was a very good one, which was a gift from my uncle because it supported my dream and vision. Once I had a system, the rest was easy. In my line of work, in order to record growth, basically you need to get more clients, build on your job, gather portfolio, and things will be easy. I fund my business from the money I make from clients. I pay for premium subscriptions that make my work easy. I pay for internet. I buy fuel when there is no lights, just minor stuff to help my business grow. Now, for this person whose business is not so much of a heavy lifting business, it just does graphics design for people. Now, the primary source of funding for his business is money he gets from his clients. For this business model, is that the best he can do?
I think a business that funds itself is like the best thing that you can think about. Like, because a lot of times entrepreneurs will be saying, okay, I need funds, I need to get to the bank, I need this. But I always tell people that, can this business fund itself? Can your suppliers, can your customers fund you? Or can you start at, a smaller scale? So, for instance, let's say I want to start a poultry farm. Yeah, I want to start a poultry farm and I need like 50 million. The first thing I want to do would be to look for somebody to fund me, a bank or all that. Or what if I have 500,000 and I cannot start a poultry farm yet, but I can trade eggs, right? So I can buy eggs at any path of that value chain.
Yes.
Buy eggs and start trading, and then by the time I have 2 million, 1 million, it keeps growing. Then I have some track record, I have history, and I'm able to save some money, right? And then maybe later, I may be able to even access the funding, or I might even be able to fund myself, over time. It might not be the 50 million I had in mind, but I would start with something. So that's really the best. I really like his model, especially because it's in a service line, a service kind of business where what you need was a laptop. And,
okay. All right, because there are some people who would say that, oh, if I don't have enough money saved up for a laptop, so I'm just going to wait on the business till I get the money.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at media business that you're looking at. All these equipments, cost a lot. And you know people that would say they don't have enough money to start. But you also see some other young person that will get the job and tied to somebody that already has the equipment. Because every business owner, every organization is looking for more business.
Yes.
So if I'm a media company and I have all this equipment and I see a young person bringing business to me, then it becomes my business partner. And so that's partnership. So really, there are creative ways, other ways to go about it, beyond. Of course, we know that access capital is very important, but there's a place to start.
Of course, the next comment is from Ola in Ibadan, and he is also a graphic designer whose capital was a laptop that was gifted to him by his cousin. We seem to be having a lot of gifts flowing in. I have been funding my business through the freelance jobs I've been receiving. Now, Moya from Lagos says, I first started with the money I got from my customers. So when they pay, I use their money to get what they will need. Then the profit still wasn't enough for the upgrade that I needed for my business. So my dad gave me a loan. It wasn't big money, but it went a long way. And no, I didn't pay him back. It's my dad after all. This brings us to the subject of loan from family members. Where does that stand? Because some people will tell you that they'd rather eat sand than take a loan from family members, because they don't want a family member that will now come and say, if not for us, your business will not start, your business will not be standing. Of course, Moyo has swindled as a dad by not returning his money. But the point is, where does the place of loan from family member, where is the place of loan from family member? Where does it stand? So
I think it's very important to define what exactly you're getting.
Okay.
So for Dayo, right?
Moyo,
or Moyo,
actually,
rather.
Yes.
I would say what she got from her dad, maybe it started out as a loan, but it has become equity. So it has become like dash money at the end of the day. But if you go to a family member you're not so close to, and there's a report by a very well-known business mogul in Nigeria that started his business with a loan from his uncle, but he returned it. So it really needs to define what exactly you're getting. Is this going to be equity, or is this going to be like a seed? Like, I give you the seed and I don't want it. So it has to be well-defined such that it doesn't spoil relationships, friendship, and the fact that if not for me, my business wouldn't have grown. But then, in life, I think we all need one another. We need networks, you need friends, you need connection. We've met, and you need to go back to 10 years ago where I met, because you don't want to do life alone. You don't want to walk alone. So basically, if you have family that can support, except maybe you don't have a good relationship with them, then you have to find someone that you have a good relationship with.
Okay. Yeah. So Joshua from Kwara, my first capital in my fashion design business was 40,000 naira, which I got from my parents as a way of them showing their support in what I believed in and wanted to do. As for the funds that I put into my business to grow it, my diligence and savings helped me with that. I also sought the help of some financial institutions like microfinance in order to get soft loans. That is not so much loans. For Joshua, he got a seed money from his parents. Then after getting seed money, he relied on savings. Now, some people would argue that savings is not that reliable because inflation would happen at some point. What's your take on that? Okay, so you can't invest without saving. So the first step is actually to save. No, okay, sorry. The first step is to earn, which he has done, and then to save. And so when you say saving is not reliable, you don't want to save for an extended period of time. Okay. So you save for a certain period of time, and then you move to invest it. So he's decided to invest in his business, which is a kind of investment. So how about microfinance loans, soft loans? Yeah, they are accessible. Why are they called soft loans, by the way? Maybe it doesn't last for long. Maybe it's not like for a long period, like short-term kind of loan. Okay. Yeah, so basically, it depends on your business. So basically, I think you need to understand the stage at which you are in business and what you need. So take, for instance, your microfinance or internet loan funds, organizations like that. You meet with them. The interest rate which they give, you have to understand if it's going to be beneficial or even harmful to you at the stage where you are. So let's say, for instance, you're doing a supply to maybe a conglomerate, like an LPO kind of financier, and you approach somebody. The interest rate may be very high, but the fact that you are going to get, they tell you maybe 30 days before the organization pays you back for the supply that you're doing. So the fact that it's short-term,
you know that, okay, I'm going to make a 15% margin. If I get a loan for 5 or 7%, I can still pay them back, and it's fine. But you won't want to take a high interest loan and put it deep into your business like some sort of working capital. Or even if you do that, you have to be sure that your return monthly is enough to service the loan. So basically, you have to understand your business. How much are you making? And for you to do this, it's another story. Do you separate your business income from your personal income? So that you can clearly say, this business makes me X amount of money or Y amount of money. So that way, you know that if I take on this loan at this certain interest rate, then it's good. It's more beneficial than being harmful.
Okay, let's move away from the comments for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned, you asked the question, one of the things that you need to consider to determine is if you separate your business income from your personal income. How does anyone do that? I mean, I run a jewelry business, example. I run a jewelry business, and then I earn as a media person. It's an example, okay?
Yes,
and then for my jewelry business, say I don't even know what I make, because maybe it is half of my salary that I used to buy the jewelry to start in the first place. And so as I'm making the money back, I'm taking my money back. How do you tell that kind of person to separate business income from personal income?
Okay, good question. So basically, what you're describing is a side hustle, right? But you have to remember that your business must have a life of its own. So it's a separate human being, for separate entity, let's put it that way, from you. So definitely, when you start out, you might just say, I just part of my salary to start this. But after a while, even if you have not registered this as a business of its own, you can open another account such that every business transaction passes through that.
There.
So the seed money, the part of your salary that you use to start the business, is like your equity. It's your own contribution to start that business. Right? So that way you are able to gradually, before you get to the point of, okay, you want to register it as a jewelry like limited or something, then you can gradually start into in separating your personal business. I think that's the beginning.
All right, so we've talked about separating your business money from your personal business income from your personal income. But then, because we got to that conversation from savings, talking about how savings can help your business and all of that. But then generally, I think that when people hear the word access to capital, the first thing they think about is, money I saved or a loan from somewhere. But let us look at the entire scope of what access to capital really means. Okay,
I think it's best for us to even first think of what exactly is capital. Right, and if you want to look at what an economist we call capital will be, any kind of asset that is valuable to you. So in your business, if you are a person in media, photography, for instance, your intellectual property will be considered capital. If you have machinery, plants, and equipment, will be considered capital. So if you want to start a tailoring business and you guys already have maybe some machines at home based on maybe your grandmother or your mom had machines, you have some capital. So basically, if you take your mind away from the fact that it has to be cash and money right now, then you start saying, I'm able to start, right? It could also be the strength of your network, the kind of people that you have, that that if I move to this person, maybe I can partner with this kind of person. That's some sort of capital. Yes, we cannot discount financial assets as financial capital. That is core as well. But if we look at it holistically and say capital, it goes in different directions. That helps us, know that I have something in me that can make me, begin. Then when you say access to capital, basically you just say, what do we have? How can I get access? How can I get lay holds or lay my hands on what I need, the kind of financing that I need to start my business? And definitely, it's not only savings, because we've already said that it's not only loans, but there are now, let me say, a myriad of different other opportunities, other kind of capital that one can lay hands on.
Can we mention a couple of them?
Oh, definitely. So grants, for instance, I'm not talking about the seed money that your dad dashed you, but there are grants.
Or the one you don't want to return.
You don't want to return. There are grants, and there are grant-making organizations, like not-for-profit organizations that give grants for not just for NGOs, but for for SMEs. In fact, they love for women. You say women in business, they will give grants to them to start. Some of them are not grants. They are loans, but without interest. So those are also available, meaning that you have a certain period to pay back, but you are paying the exact amount that you collected. So those are other opportunities. people can also, there's something called crowdfunding, or, getting money maybe through cooperative. Let me just use that as a form of crowdfunding, because people, in a cooperative, they come together, save money towards a goal, and then they can get a loan from it. So that's another way one can look at it.
Okay. I like the fact that there are options, and one is not just limited to getting a loan from the bank or saving up. Because for saving up, a lot of people have lost their business ideas or lost interest in the entire business because they're thinking, it's taking too long to save, I beg. Let me just use the money to buy chicken.
So I think the thing about savings, if you wanted to start a business, you cannot just say, I'm saving till I'm able to start.
Okay.
There's this thing that starts where you are with what you have. So what do I have? Where can I start? So if you want to do something big, there's always a value chain in the business, in whatever you're doing. So you might not have to start at the beginning. I want to start manufacturing cement today, right? I don't have to wait till I can afford to set up a cement factory. Can I start trading cement? Can I start with 1 bag of cement, then 1 truck? In fact, I don't have a truck. Can I link somebody that needs cement with somebody that has a truck and has this, the ATC and all that to buy cement already from the manufacturers? I'm already in that business. And then you start growing gradually. Then, yes, you're saving, but everything now comes together. Those are the real people that have a passion for what they want to do. Because if you just say you want to save, wait till you use the money for something else, definitely.
Yes, definitely. All right, so why is it very important to have access to capital? Why is it so important? I mean, can't someone just start with, I don't know, whatever it is that is available and not bother about capital? Why is it so important for a new or even existing businesses to have access to capital?
So, I mean, access to financial capital is key, no doubt. So it's important for the operations of your business, your day-to-day running. It's very important to always have funds to pay your staff, to entertain your guests when they come on board, for travel expense, for advertisement. It's so important for people to get to know your brand, for this, and also to plan for your future growth. So, for instance, you have a branch, you run a cake business, and you want to open a branch, or you want to move your business from Nigeria to Kenya. If you don't have funds, you can't even dream. Well, you can dream, but you can't achieve those dreams. So it's very important.
All right. So how does an entrepreneur, we've already mentioned soft loans, we've mentioned crowdfunding, we've mentioned savings.
Yes, please.
We've also mentioned looking around with what you have. For instance, say you have your mother has a sewing machine that she doesn't use often, and you've learned tailoring, but you don't have money to buy a machine. How about you start using that? Or your dad or your uncle has a printing press, and your graphics designer who wants to go into printing. Like, you just partner with people who already have the things that you're looking for.
And I think that's the most, the most powerful kind of capital one can start with.
Now, so for the Nigeria of today,
yes, please.
We mentioned that, okay, some people, there's also the opportunity for grants and all of that. But in Nigeria of today, you find out that people think there's just a general mindset that it is difficult to get funding or to start a business. What do you have to say about that? What other options are available?
Okay, so, yeah, it depends on where you're going and what you want to achieve. I mean, we've probably mentioned most of the options that we can think of, but I just want to re-emphasize that most times for small and growing businesses, SMEs, and at the startup, going to a commercial bank might not really be your best option. Until recently, when commercial banks started having packages for SMEs, that even the ones they have, it's more difficult to access them, right? So you want to look for options like the ones that we've mentioned. And I also think that starting, most people will be like, why do I have to start with my own money? It's a seed. If you don't invest personally in your business, then why do you want people to believe in that dream? So basically, you have to start something. And, we've said that you don't always have to start with cash. You can start with different, paths and start growing. But when people start seeing that passion, when people start seeing what you've done, your track record, because if you want to go to, even if it's a microfinance bank or a commercial bank, they want to see evidence of transactions. They want to see cash flow. They want to see your track record, basically what you've done in the past, and that will make them believe in it. So that means you just have to start where you are to show something, like the analogy of the poultry person that wanted to go into egg business. I wanted. So one of the options that I've now not mentioned, especially for startups. Now we've talked about small businesses, but startups, I mean, they are angel investors. And I was at a seminar just last week Saturday, and one of the organizer just introduced a particular lady that was so much like she was the person that helped him. Said she was the first investor in his business. Said she knew him from nowhere. an elderly woman, just believed in his dream. So those kind of people are called angel investors. It doesn't have to be until the person brings a lot of money. Something this doesn't have to be your family, but angel. So there are now, structured organizations that like networks, and they call themselves angel networks that exist even in Nigeria. And then there's also the private equity firms. Of course, your business will not be at the stage where you're still struggling to start.
Yes.
Where you want to go to venture capital or private equity, you are, at a higher stage. Now, there are also structures called incubators and accelerator programs, such that you have a startup idea, a tech-driven idea that you can, get into an incubator where they can, not only support you with funding, but support you with mentorship, structures that can help you understand how to grow this business. And then, of course, some sort of seed equity will go into that.
Good stuff. Let's take more comments.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this conversation really, because now my mind is doing like 3 plus 5s, not just 2 plus 2s. All right, Fatima from Abuja says, I have not tried any other source of getting funds for my business apart from the money given to me by family and friends, but I have heard of a few which I would like to share.
Okay, cool.
To fund your business, whether as a startup or existing business, you can get loans from the bank or join a cooperative society, like we mentioned. These measures require you to have a collateral to stand in place for you, and also return the money to the bank or cooperative society at the scheduled time, except if you're funded by relatives. Funds can also be gotten from federal government programs as grants, which is usually the best way to get your business funded without a collateral or refund of money required. Although this method seems to be rare to get, as the process of getting grants can sometimes be tasking, and only few people get funded at the end of the day. So the question of collateral.
Okay.
I've heard someone say at one point that if you are just starting a business, that you shouldn't go for loans that would demand a huge collateral from you. How true is that?
So it depends. It basically depends on what you're doing. So let's say you are inexperienced, you're just starting a business. I won't even start with a loan in the first place, because you want to prove the concept. You want to prove that you are the best person to do this business, right? So it is until after you've shown track record, you've shown cash flow, your business has cash. And remember we said you have to separate your business income. So that is why it's important. This income is for this business. You can track it, you can show people, you can prove it that when I started with X, now I'm at, YZ, that kind of a thing. So at the start, I wouldn't advise. But there are some projects that are deliberately designed, to start with debt funding, like a bond and all that. But those are very huge projects I'm talking about, and not even in the SME space at all. That would be like infrastructure projects.
Okay. Yeah. That would require heavy machinery and stuff?
Yeah, there are like projects like refinery, setting up a modular refinery. Or a gas plant or something. So
okay. Okay, let's look at Folu from Akure saying, for me, I got capital for my business through my savings, got some money from family and friends, and so at some point, I even sold some of my properties in order to raise funds. It is true that business plan competitions can come up, but they are few and far between. You would note that I did not include banks. This is because so far I have learned that it is only when your business is able to have stable cash flow, that's when you can approach the bank for loans, just what you just said. And personally, I cherish my peace of mind a lot. I would recommend that business owners consider venture funds if they don't mind the stress that they bring. But if you're not ready for their wahala, please stay clear of them. Venture capital is a form of private equity and the type of financing that investors provide to start-up companies and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth potential. Venture capital generally comes from well-off investors, investment banks, and many other financial institutions. Now, the question of selling your property to prove the concept of your business idea, where do you stand?
And I believe Fola, if that's the right name, Folu wouldn't have started. The very first step was, let me sell my land in Lekki to start. He would have proved it to himself and believed in it, right? But remember that he had to save or acquire that property in a particular way. He had to probably save or maybe inherited it or something before he could even buy the property in the first place. So it's a process. We will not jump A, B, C, D and jump to Z. You have to, grow it over time. So he will probably start with, family and friends, and then it would, if he believes in this, if I sell this property, it's an investment. The property is an investment. If you look at your business as an investment, invest your time, invest your money, and then invest other people's money in it as well. So.
Okay, let's take the last two comments. In terms of funding for business, this is Akpan from Kano.
Okay.
Akpan is saying, in terms of funding for businesses, there are not a lot out there. If you want funding in Nigeria, your best bet might just be rich family and friends. Aqua might not be absolutely correct in this regard. Or if you think you can stand world class, like a trip to Silicon Valley, or be friends with the top people in the ecosystem to help with introduction. Well, jokes apart, I think you can get funding by building a super great product that solves a really interesting problem and charge for it. You make money from your customers simply. I heard that's how businesses over centuries have been raising money before the venture capital and angel investor days. And then Kola from Lagos says, my capital were from personal savings and angel funding. I still fund my business with my personal savings, but will soon have angel investors invest in business, in my business rather, in order for it to move forward. An angel investor is also a private investor, a seed investor, is a high net worth individual who provides financial backing for small businesses. Let's talk about how it works with angel investors before we now come back to okay, he said he was joking because I was going to say that you can't sit down and wait for rich family and friends.
Oh, you know, I mean the first person.
Yeah, the first person. Yeah. I think he was joking. So
yes.
Let's talk about how angel investors work. So say I am an angel investor. Mm-hmm. Am I the one that comes to you and says, I can invest in your business, but in exchange for whatever money I bring to the table, I want so a number of shares. I want this percent of the business. I want to own a certain percent of the business. Or is that, oh, I'm just providing you with whatever it is that you need. When you run your profit, I own a certain amount of the profit. Is that how it works?
It can work in various ways. So an angel investor can be an individual. You can fund a particular project, saying that this project is what we're funding. We will share the profits based on agreed. An angel investor can fund the whole business, the startup concept itself. At the beginning stage where the startup is like zero, there's no valuation. So you can't say this is the value of the startup. So it's more difficult for you to say this is the amount. If I'm giving you 100 million, it's you know, it's about this certain amount of equity is what I would get because it's more difficult. But if the business has some traction or it's been growing, then you can, you know, put some valuation of it, which is not even correct, you know, because you'll be thinking of the future value. But then the angel investor will think, if I bring in this amount, this is what made you get to that future value. But all those kind of things would have to be decided, you know, before they go. That's for a more formal structure. Then there are also groups that come together and say they're like angel network groups. So that makes it even more formal, you know, bringing them together. But generally, it can be as simple as, hey, we just signed a basic agreement. We're funding a project to manufacture this cup of coffee. And it can be to fund the whole business, but it has just to be agreed. Okay.
So before I let you go, a lot of businesses run into debts.
Okay.
Because they are trying to, they got funding quite all right. And then they have funding. Yeah. But maybe due to lack of planning or not knowing how to navigate the hardest tasks around their business running day to day, they just keep running into debt. Yes. Or maybe they allow customers to take their time before they pay and all of that. Now, how would you suggest that such businesses get out of that rut?
Okay, cool. So firstly, before you'd even get to that stage, I'm going to say three things: planning, structure, and governance. So the first thing is you want to have a clear path of what your business is into, what the vision, how you want to go. That makes the business more attractive. I'm not even talking about the business plan. I'm talking about planning, understanding, you know, the growth plan and everything for like a very good model and strategy for the business. Now, if you want to get funds and you get in, I know I said something about making sure you know the interest rate, that you know the cost of that financing for you, how it matches your business. Is the timing of your cash flow, does it match the timing of your repayments? I've had somebody that was into Uber business. I know they get funds maybe at the end of every week, right?
Yeah.
At the end of every week. And he said he was going to be paying at the end of every month. And I'm like, you're going to default because you would have spent the money before it's time to pay. So we had to restructure and say, you have to do it weekly. You know, so those kind of things, making sure the timing of the cash flow matters. Then the next thing, for other kind of business that has to do with structure, your business has to be properly structured. And I mean, I will take the jewelry business that you said. from the very first day that you start that jewelry business, you separated your funds. Another thing you need to do is to make sure that you begin to create the concept of structure in terms of organizational structure. Yes, you are the chief everything officer at that stage, right? And you are also the CEO. But you want to create that concept of, this is the accounts department. There's nobody there, but you know, right? So every communication that has to do with accounts, legal, HR, you know. So if you have maybe a website and you have emails, you can even create accounts at Jewelry Limited, HR at Jewelry Limited, sales at Jewelry. So when you want to grow and hire, you begin to put people to fit into those structures. So you hire a salesperson. All the conversations you've had with your customers over time is in that email. The person just inherits that email. So that makes it easier for you to, you know, think of structure at that very, very, very basic level. Then when you're talking about governance, starts from structure, but it goes to a bit higher where you begin to get advisors on the board of your company. Not necessarily a board of directors now, but even for a very, you know, smaller stage, an advisor, people that come to you to advise you. So it gives the concept of accountability. You're not just, you know, doing what you like. You're accountable to some people. It gives the concept of transparency. You know, because people that want to invest in your business, if they've seen that you have put those kind of things in place, they're like, wow, these people are small, but they know what they're doing. Because people want returns on their funds, right? They don't want to be someone that will just, you know, swindle them or take the money away. So even it's still the same thing with whether it's loans or is PE, VC, or whatever kind of financing that you're talking about.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me on the show this morning.
No problem.
It was a very nice conversation talking about getting access to capital for entrepreneurs on the show this morning. And I've been speaking with Olawumi Olatunji, who is a strategy and investment specialist.